the structure of the Ottoman Empire, who was where and who was doing what. So let's start at the very top. You had the Sultan. He was top of the empire and he was the absolute ruler. Under him he had his deputy, who was the Grand Vizier. And then you had his religious deputy, who was called the Sheikhul Islam, and he was the leader of all Islam in the Ottoman Empire. And it was the Sultan who chose the people that would take these two roles. The Sultan, the Grand Vizier, and the Sheikhul Islam and other members made up the Imperial Council, or what we would call today the Ottoman government. They were all to be found in Topkapı Palace. Topkapı Palace was the center of power and Ottoman government, and it was referred to at the time as the Sublime Porte. At the very top of the social hierarchy, you had the elite. You had the military and you had the bureaucrats, and neither of these were paying any taxes. Everybody else was in the next layer, and they were called the Reya. So they were peasants, manufacturers, and merchants, and all of them were paying taxes. They were keeping the Ottoman Empire going. The different religions and the different religious communities were divided up as millets, people of the book, the Christians and the Jews, and these religious communities had their own leaders and they had autonomy and freedom to practice their religion if they paid the head tax, the jizya, and they accepted the Sultan's rule. The law of the land was Sharia, which is Islamic law, and also the Sultan's Kanun. And it was the Qadi judges and the Qadi courts, the Muslim courts, that executed these laws, and these courts were open to all citizens. The Ottomans were very pragmatic and they had a liberal application of Islamic laws. They were non-invasive. Religion played a very important part in people's lives at this time. The ulama, or the Muslim learned in the madrasas and the religious schools, and they were the ones interpreting and executing law. The language of the land was Ottoman Turkish, which was a combination of Persian and Arabic. Due to the high literacy at this time, knowing the language, reading and writing in Ottoman Turkish ensured you were placed in the elite. The system of allocation of conquered land was called the Timar system, and it was related to the military. Conquered land was handed to the Ottoman cavalrymen and the officials, who were responsible for managing the land and the people, collecting taxes, and when the time came, the Sultan called them. They would have to join a campaign, provide military service and soldiers if the Sultan asked. Slavery played an important part in the Ottoman Empire. There was a system called a devshirme, the Christian boy child tax. Christian children, boys, were collected from Greece and the Balkans, and they were taken to the capital in Istanbul, and they were trained. They were trained in military skills and other skills, and the most able-bodied could reach the highest positions in Ottoman society. The other slaves were women slaves, and these women were, through conquering land, taken while they were conquering, or bought in slave markets, and they were placed in the harem as the concubines or domestic service, again in the Topkapı Palace. And some of these women, if they were to mother the Sultan's children, especially the sons, they would be the future mother of sultans. The Ottoman Empire placed a lot of emphasis on charity and charitable endeavors because the Sultan believed that charity pleases God. So the Sultan, his wives, his family, and the elite were encouraged to spend and undertake many charitable endeavors.